Hey, 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 you're waking up with Craig. Good morning on Tuesday, November 27th. Let's get right to it. Our morning quote: don't look back. Something might be gaining on you. Satchel Paige. And this is true when you're playing the sport or when you're a part of the sport, because another team could be catching you. And joining me now is Bo Norcross. Bo, thanks for joining.
We're back, baby.
Now, the Texans were 0-3. They have won 8 straight. Not only have they gained on the people in their division that take over the division, they're starting to gain on the rest of the AFC. What'd you think of the Texans so far?
The Texans, man, they're legit. It's time to start thinking about this team because they play good defense. They showed they can run the ball. 281 yards as a team. That's tough to stop. Deshaun Watson, if he can play turnover-free football, they're going to be tough to beat.
And Lamar Miller had a tough year to get going. I think getting another weapon with Demaryius Thomas has really opened things up for them. What do you think about that trade? Do you think that was a must-do situation for them?
They needed it because Will Fuller's injury. If Will Fuller's healthy, maybe they didn't necessarily need that trade, but with Will Fuller gone for the year, that was a big trade for them.
Now, what do you think about when Will Fuller comes back next year? How dominant those three could be?
That's going to really help Watson. Let's just put it that way. I mean, Demaryius Thomas is getting older, but he's still going to be a great red zone threat, as we saw tonight with 2 touchdowns.
And as much as it helps Watson, you even said it's just opening stuff up for Lamar Miller.
Right.
And the Texans have a lot of things going right now. The Bengals do not. They got embarrassed at home against the Browns. They have coaching jobs that are up for grabs and all these things. And finding out today, Dalton out for season with a thumb injury. Is it just time to clean house?
Oh, absolutely. If they don't make this move now, they never will. Because every year I think Marvin Lewis is gone, they just bring him back for one more year of mediocre football. So.
And does this even go on past the coaches, though? Should they just start over with a new QB? Should they clean out some guys on the...
If they got a chance to draft a quarterback, I think they should definitely look at that option because it's not like Andy Dalton's won you a playoff game yet. But I wouldn't blame the other guys. AJ Green's elite. You got guys like Joe Mixon, who I think is going to be really, really good.
And the Bengals had a tough loss. A team, though, that had a big win was the Celtics on the road. How bad did they need this one?
I think they needed it pretty badly. Everyone's talking about 10-10. Like, people are worried. I'm telling you right now, I'm not worried. I haven't been worried. It's early in the season. I think Brad Stevens and this Celtics team's going to figure it out. And they proved to us tonight that they can play better and that they played a decent opponent, especially Celtics on the road. It's a good win.
Who do you think down the road is going to be the biggest player for the Celtics?
I still think it's going to be Kyrie. I don't think that can change. I think we have to rely on Kyrie, but it's not like he's everything. So I'll leave it at that.
Now, Kyrie, he's a big-time player, but he hasn't always been the best defender, and I think that's the thing we've been lacking. Holding the Pelicans to 107 points last night is pretty good. I think some guys on the defense have to step up. Who do you think it starts with on the defense?
It's obviously our guy, Marcus Smart. He brings the energy that we love to watch. But it's tough because he is less of a scoring threat. But you do have to use him, a good amount of your time. And they do. Brad Stevens loves a guy like Marcus Smart. So.
And a lot of people have been talking to me lately. They love Aaron Baines. What do you see in Aaron Baines? He's not your best center. He doesn't do it all, but... What do you think about Aaron Baines on the team?
I think the biggest thing he gives us is the size because Al Horford's great, but he's not as tall and as big as some of these other guys. So Baines gives us that size that I think we really
And we've seen Aaron Baines is not afraid to get dunked on, and if he gets dunked on, he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Do you think him and Marcus Smart and their personality can get our defense playing better?
Maybe. I think it starts with Marcus, and then it helps a lot of other guys amp it up. I think Gordon Hayward, as we see later in the year, he's going to be back to the defender he used to be. So
I agree. Gordon Hayward coming back and him getting used to the defense and everything is going to be good for him. The minute restriction is starting to come off. He's starting to play better. A team that has not played well are the Jaguars. They suck. The Jaguars are awful. They completely suck. I'm just going to come out and say it. They're awful. They were 3-1. They've lost 7 straight to be 3-8. they've decided to bench Blake Bortles. In February, they signed him to a 3-year extension. I want to start there, Bo. Would you have signed Blake Bortles to a 3-year extension?
You know, I was a big supporter of Blake Bortles when he was having a great year last year, and you guys would laugh, but then they went out and beat the Steelers, and they played with the Patriots, and you thought, well, maybe Blake Bortles could be a quarterback that he could rely on. And then he went back to the Blake Bortles we all know. So that's where we're at. Yeah, he deserved to lose his job this year, though.
Now, what do you think this is going to do in the future, though? Because they got him for 2 more years. I mean, they're probably going to he's going to be the starter, you got to assume. Is it time to draft someone?
Like I said, it's all about who you draft, though. It's if you can get the guy that's
You don't want them to force it, but if that guy's there, you got to take him.
You got to take a shot at somebody, right, at this point.
And let's say next year, Bortles isn't playing great. You see that your team's okay, 500, a little over. Do you even think about going out and trading for someone?
Maybe.
Is that the difference this team needs? I mean, I know this year they have a lot more problems than just Blake Bortles. But last year they seemed like they were a QB who could win it away from beating the Patriots.
Yeah, they get a good quarterback in there, and that defense can be very elite. And then they're tough. Then they're as tough as anybody. I mean, we've seen with the Bears at times this year, when their defense is real good, it makes it easy on guys like Trubisky, who's not necessarily the quarterback that's going to go win you a game, but when you're setting him up in good field position and such.
Now, there's a lot of talk about Tom Coughlin down in Jacksonville. If Eli went there, is he that much of an improvement, or is he just the same? Do you see that?
I don't think he'd be that big of an improvement at this point in his career.
You'd rather see them go younger?
Yeah, you have to. You can't go get... And I don't think Eli would go there anyways. I just don't think... I think if Eli can't play for the Giants, he'll retire.
Now, the Jaguars don't have a lot of wins. Maine basketball has no wins. It's early in the year.
Yeah, it is early.
They've played only road games. Tomorrow is their first game at home against Princeton. Does Maine get their first win?
I don't think Maine does get their first win. They've been playing a lot of people tough, but I think this Princeton team is going to be too good to beat Maine. I think that this isn't one of those games when I looked at the schedule that I thought was very winnable. But then again, I didn't think the North Texas one was winnable, and we took them to overtime. It depends on what Maine team comes out tomorrow, but I just don't think that tomorrow's our first win.
And I see improvement from this Maine team. They're better than they are last year in my mind. I think they're playing better under the new coach. If Maine is to get their first win tomorrow, who is the reason why?
I think it has to be Isaiah White. I think it has to be him because that's the load he carries. It has to be. And that's the problem with this Maine team is if you just watch film, shut down Isaiah White and you'll beat Maine every time. Now,
talking about Isaiah White, you've seen him play.
Yeah.
What do you see in Isaiah White? How good is he?
He's a real good ball player. He's athletic. He can get to the rim and he can shoot as well. So he's an absolute threat on offense. And he still hustles. He's a guy who cares. You can tell that by watching. But I just don't think that he's enough tomorrow.
And his kind of sidekick right now, playing a good amount of minutes, is Teron Moss. And I know you saw him play at Portland. Is it concerning that a guy like that plays so many minutes? And don't get me wrong, I like Teron Moss. I've seen some games, and he's looked well. But this is Division I basketball. You play games against BC and teams like that. What does that show about Maine?
I don't think that that's the problem because I think if he wasn't playing major minutes, I'd be more concerned. I mean, I get your point. It's like a kid from Portland, Maine is playing D1 basketball, but I think he deserves it. And I think everyone underestimated him when they saw his size, but I think he actually is a really good basketball player, and he can only improve from here. So.
And we've seen him. He likes to shoot it, and he makes a lot of shots.
Yep.
And if we're going to beat some teams down the road, he's going to have to hit threes for us.
Yep.
But going from that to another topic, conference championships are coming up in college football. Basketball season's great, but football season isn't done yet. What's a conference championship you're looking forward to the most?
So, CJ, my game to watch this Saturday is going to be Georgia-Bama. And I think the whole country is interested in watching this one because Georgia can punch their ticket to the playoffs with a win against Bama. But the other interesting thing is I think even if Bama loses, as long as it's not a blowout, it's close, they're going to still get in. I think that Oklahoma and Ohio State looking on the outs right now with those one losses, I think they're going to put in Bama over both of those teams at this point.
And I've looked at the game, and that's probably the most appetizing. That one's going to be a great one to watch, and it probably means the most.
Yeah.
But a game that also means a lot, and I think could be closer than a lot of people think, is Ohio State and Northwestern. And Northwestern only lost to Notre Dame by 10. Notre Dame's undefeated. They've beaten some good teams. They lost to Michigan by like 3 or so. They've played a lot of teams tough. And honestly, they might play spoiler for Ohio State. And if that happens, to me, if Georgia at least plays close, they might just get in, win or lose.
I think that'd be tough. As much as I'd love to see Northwestern win, I still think it's tough because if Oklahoma comes out and beats Texas, you got to consider them. As bad as their defense is and as overrated as I think Oklahoma actually is, I don't know if they'll put in a 2-loss team. And Georgia lost to a tough LSU team. LSU's still a top 10, 15 team in the nation, but it's...
And I think Ohio State probably will win. And Oklahoma should win. But to me, Oklahoma has to win by double digits against Texas.
They won't. Texas beat them the first time by 3, and I think that Texas might beat them again.
But I think Ohio State, they have that Michigan win. Oklahoma doesn't have really any great wins besides West Virginia, and I think Oklahoma needs a statement win. And I'm not saying it has to be 17-20, but they need to win by, or at least make it convincing and they played well and can compete. Because they don't want to put a team in that's going to get blown out by Alabama. And what scares them, the committee, is Alabama has great offense. Oklahoma has terrible defense. This could be over in the second quarter.
And that's exactly why UCF won't make it this year. Even if all teams have 2 losses, I still think if Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State all had 2 losses, I still don't think UCF even gets considered.
Okay, I think they might not get in, but they would get considered.
I just don't think you can at this point. Their quarterback's down. This is not the team that we saw last year.
I agree, and it's kind of sad they didn't get in last year because I think they were a lot better last year. And they showed me against Auburn. They were legit last year.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to be interesting because if they lose anyways in the conference championship, then the committee's just going to breathe easy. Because one loss UCF team, not even close.
Now, a lot of these coaches can make some extra money. Schools can get a little extra from winning a conference championship. Some coaches that I got to worry a little bit are some NFL coaches. What NFL coach are you most worried about or has to prove the most in this last 6 weeks?
You know who I think is kind of on the hot seat right now? Maybe the Atlanta Falcons head coach. Because...
You think Quinn is on the hot seat?
I think he might be. I think you have to kind of look at it because they went from blowing the biggest Super Bowl lead that you could possibly blow to sneaking into the playoffs last year, and now they're out of the playoffs. It's like you're wasting a very talented Atlanta Falcons team.
And I agree. I think he is. He's got some problems. Part of me thinks they're going to blame it on the OC, so he might be a little bit in trouble.
Yep.
One obvious candidate we just need to get out of the way is Marvin Lewis. We know he's just...
Yeah, that's a guarantee,
see you later.
Yeah.
One coach I'm kind of worried about is Ron Rivera. Because I'm not saying he'll get fired this year.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't make the playoffs this year, if he doesn't make it next year, I think next year would be the year he would get fired. I think ever since going to that Super Bowl, they didn't make it last year. This year, they looked like they were going to make it pretty easy. Now they've lost some games, and I'm starting to get concerned because they still have to play the Saints twice, the Falcons. I mean, they're at 5 losses already. You get to 7, it's going to be tough for you.
I think that the Panthers do have to maybe consider that because I don't see them making the playoffs this year. Even at 6-5 right now, if I'm a Panthers fan, I'm worried about this team having to play that schedule down the stretch.
And a couple weeks ago, I thought they were going to make the playoffs, and I thought they were going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I looked ahead at the schedule and said, well, the Panthers could lose a couple of these games, but losing these back-to-back games in these last 2 weeks to put them at 6-5 before the Saints and all those tough games that they got coming up, I don't think the Panthers are going to be able to make the playoffs unless the rest of the NFC folds, as we've seen. You know, the Packers are in trouble right now. There's a lot of teams. I mean, I think the team with the best chance to hold their wild card spot is the Vikings. But I think Seattle, I mean, they got 3 easy games at least.
They might have the easiest schedule out of the teams.
I think they're going to get to 9 wins pretty easily, playing the Niners twice and the Cardinals again. But it's like, yeah, they are division games. I mean,
you never know.
You never know, I guess.
So, the Panthers didn't play good on Sunday. And they played okay. It's not like they played awful, but they just let it slip from them.
Yeah.
A team that played great on Sunday was the Broncos.
Yeah.
They played well. They took care of the Steelers. And do the Broncos have a real chance at 5-6, Bo?
I honestly believe that the Broncos have a shot at this wild card spot. Their schedule to end the year is on the road against Cincinnati. No Andy Dalton this next week.
Yep, so I'll give them a win.
I'm thinking they're winning. They're 6-6. They have to go on the road, but it's against the 49ers.
Yeah, so they can win that. There's 2 wins.
At home against the Browns, I think they get it done.
I think they get a win if they really need it.
Yep. Now you're looking on the road against the Raiders.
I see 4 wins.
At home against the Chargers, who, let me remind you, they beat 23-22. So if you're telling me that this Broncos team can't win out...
And at that point, if they win those games, they'd be at 9-6. And I think if it came down to it and they needed that win at home, that place would be rocking. Mile High would be going crazy. And you know, I love Kirk Cousins this year. But Case Keenum will always have a place in my heart. And he can bring a little Minneapolis Miracle magic to Mile High Stadium. And I agree, but I think the Broncos have a real chance at the playoffs. Now, my 2 favorites for the wild card right now are the Chargers, who are 8-3. I think they're probably pretty much a lock.
They're pretty much a lock at this point.
And I think the Colts are playing hotter than anybody for a wild card right now. I think the Broncos are playing better, but I think the Colts have just... Andrew Luck is playing out of his mind this year. I've really liked what they've done. Do you think the Broncos pass the Colts?
I think it might be tough for them because the Colts are up a game. The Colts going to play the Jags on the road, which they should take care of. But
especially
again,
no Bortles.
Yeah, we would think, but maybe Cody Kessler is better.
Maybe.
I mean, then on the road against the Texans, that's a tough game for the Colts.
They're probably going to lose that one.
At home against the Cowboys, though, I'm not sure who's going to win that game.
No, that will be a great game.
It will be a great game. And then at home against the Giants,
we don't know what Giants team's going to show up. Tyler probably thinks that they're going to win that game by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but we both know the reality of the situation. And then on the road against the Titans. That Titans football team's not bad.
The thing is, I don't think Titans will be playing for anything at that point.
They might not be.
And if they're smart, just lose the game, get a better draft pick at that point.
Yeah.
But, you know, division teams love to ruin their division's playoff hopes.
It's true. And you know who you haven't talked about that's 6-5 right now? The Ravens. The Ravens have the head-to-head with the Broncos. So say the Broncos win 4 of their last 5 and go 9-7. I can see the Ravens getting to 9-7. They'd have the head-to-head. It then would have to come down to where the Colts fall into this mess.
You know what I think about the Ravens?
What do you think about the Ravens,
Poop.
Tippy?
Poop.
You don't think they got a shot?
Don't even bring up their name on my show.
They
are absolutely... They're okay. They're okay.
I think...
See, the thing what I see about the Colts is they've had a lot of explosive plays this year. The Broncos, at times, with Lindsey and Keenum and Sanders, have had explosive plays. The Chargers are very explosive.
Yeah.
The Ravens, what, Joe Smo out there?
Yeah,
Joe Smo Flacco? I'm not convinced they ain't going to do anything.
The Ravens are never going to be that explosive offensive team, but that defense brings the energy. It always has and it always will. That defense holds this team together. And Lamar Jackson could still be out there at quarterback. They could be running the ball 30, 40 times a game between him and their running backs.
So those teams are trying to get in the playoffs to chase down that Super Bowl prize and be the number 1 team in the National Football League. The number 1 team right now in college basketball is Gonzaga. Is Gonzaga the best team in college hoops?
Right now, maybe. Right now, maybe. They proved to me that they're legit with their win over Duke.
I will give them credit. They are playing a tougher schedule this year. They're not playing Pepperdine and San Francisco.
Yeah, we used to hate that.
I still hate Gonzaga.
Gonzaga would come out like 30-1 and be a 1 seed every year.
I hate Mark
nobody.
Few. I hate Gonzaga. I hate all of them.
That's fair.
So you say right now.
Yeah, right now.
You don't think by March there will still be the best team?
No.
Who will be, Bo?
Dukies, baby. The Dukies are coming. And you know Coach K is chasing that 6th ring, and he's going to get it. You want to know why? Because he's the greatest college basketball coach of all time. And that is why.
Now, so Gonzaga beat Duke already. But it was just Maui Invitational, whatever the playoff, or whatever the tournament was.
Yeah.
Do you think April 2nd, 4th, whatever it is, when they're cutting down the nets, it's going to be blue and white on those ladders?
Yeah, and not that powder blue and white UNC garbage team. It's going to be the Duke Blue Devils.
So,
absolutely.
Now, I want to ask you a question about Duke. Who's the best player on Duke?
Barrett. Zion Williams is going to get the hype because he's a freak of nature. But Barrett is the best basketball player they have. Not the best athlete.
And I've always said,
best basketball player.
I've always said with players when they get to the rim, just dunk it every time. But a lot of them just lay it up or they pull up a floater. I think every time I see Barrett go to the rim, he just puts it in his left hand and he just throws it down. He really doesn't care where you are. I saw him do it against Gonzaga. But I'm going to tell you why Barrett, Williamson, and Reddish aren't the most important players. Trey Jones.
Love the kid.
And he reminds me a lot of Tyus. And I think with Trey Jones, he just commands everything out there.
He does.
And I think later, maybe not now, and in March, I think that's the most important thing. I think this freshman team is going to get in some times where they're going to be down in games, and I think Trey Jones is going to slow the game down and make some big-time plays to get Zion Williamson and Reddish and Barrett on track if they're not having a great shooting day. How important do you think Trey Jones is to this team?
I think he's huge to this team. This young man is one of the better passers I've seen come through Duke. And that is no disrespect to any of the other Dukies. But this man knows how to pass the basketball and get those guys the ball in places where they can score and succeed. And that is why I think he is really kind of like the glue to this team. To me, when I watch him play, nothing rattles him. He's very calm and relaxed at all times. And I think that he's a floor general. It's what he does. He's one of the best.
Now, but you talked about being relaxed. I know last night you saw Creed 2. What'd you think of the movie?
Oh, great movie. Creed 2, it teaches you toughness, underdog story. I mean, just what we expected to go see at the movies. And I was so hyped. I loved it.
Now, what was the feeling you had during the movie with all the boxing going on? Did it get you fired up?
Yeah, I wanted to run through a brick wall, baby. I was ready.
So let's get to our game of the day before we end. I'm looking at Duke and Indiana. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. And it's at home for Duke, so they should win. But you never know. Indiana, great history in basketball. Indiana trying to get back on track with the program. What do you need to see from Duke tonight to just show they're that much better than everybody else?
Go out there and do what you did against San Diego State. Another team who's top 50, 60 team in the nation. Duke beat them by 20.
How much do you think Duke wins by?
25.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
25 against Indiana.
Indiana's a decent basketball team this year. Nothing to be worried about.
Well, Bo, thanks for joining the show. Have a great day. Everybody out there, thank you for listening. Drive safe to work. Have a great day. And remember, keep on balling.